The wilderness is not the playground we have been told it is since we were children. Beneath the canopy of our most majestic national parks lies a darkness that defies the laws of nature and the understanding of man. It is a place where the air grows heavy and the very fabric of reality seems to fray at the edges. I have spent decades tracking the footprints of the vanished, and what I found will haunt your soul. Imagine a sunlit afternoon in the deep woods where the warmth of the sun feels like a gentle embrace. You are walking a trail you have known for years, with family only a few paces behind you. You turn a corner, expecting to see a familiar clearing. But instead, you step into a void of absolute, crushing silence. The world you knew is gone, replaced by an oppressive stillness that swallows your name. 10 days pass in a blur of frantic searching, screaming whistles, and the desperate prayers of those left behind. Then, the search team finds you lying at the base of a jagged 300-foot granite monolith. Logic dictates that a fall from such a height would shatter the human frame beyond all recognition. But as the rangers approach, their flashlights reveal a sight that makes their blood turn to ice. Your body is perfect, lying there as if you were merely resting on a bed of silk rather than cold stone. There are no broken bones, no skull fractures, and not a single drop of blood to stain the earth. Your clothes are pressed and clean, showing none of the wear and tear of a week in the elements. It is as if the laws of gravity and biology simply ceased to exist for you. Welcome back to the program. I am David Paulides, and tonight we are crossing a line into the truly inexplicable. We are talking about the Pristine Body profile, a terrifying pillar of the missing 411 phenomenon. This is not speculation or campfire folklore. I am reading directly from the official reports of the men on the ground. These facts are uncomfortable. They are chilling, and the authorities would prefer they stayed buried. Why does a body found in a death zone show zero signs of trauma or the struggle for survival? Why do these victims appear in locations they could not have reached by any known human means? There is a pattern here, a signature left by something that operates outside our three-dimensional understanding of the world. We are going to look at the cases that the National Park Service refuses to discuss in public. Let us begin our journey in the rugged, unforgiving peaks of Colorado back in the year 2014. Jim McGrogan was a 39-year-old physician, a man of science, health, and immense physical stamina. He was navigating a mountain trail with a group of friends, heading toward a remote backcountry hut. Jim was a leader, a man who knew the risks of the high country better than most. During the hike, Jim decided to move slightly ahead of the group, just a simple gap of a few hundred yards. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from the trail as if he had been erased from existence. His friends called out, their voices echoing off the canyon walls, but only the wind answered back. The physician had slipped through a crack in the world, leaving no trace behind. A massive search operation was launched immediately, utilizing the most advanced technology available to modern man. We had helicopters with thermal imaging, elite mountain rescue teams, and highly trained tracking dogs. They scoured every inch of that mountain for 18 days. fighting through brutal terrain and freezing winds. Yet, Jim McGrogan remained a ghost, hidden by a forest that refused to give him up. When his body was finally discovered by passing skiers, it was located at the bottom of a massive vertical ice fall. The terrain was so treacherous that a single slip should have resulted in a catastrophic, bone-shattering impact. But the medical examiner's report was a document of pure, unadulterated impossibility. Jim McGrogan had no internal injuries, no fractures, and no signs of the trauma a fall would cause. But the most disturbing detail was not what was on his body, but what was missing from his feet. Jim was found without his boots, yet his socks were perfectly clean and completely free of any tears. How does a man walk miles through the jagged rocks and ice of Colorado without shoes and keep his socks pristine? It is a physical impossibility unless that man was never walking on the ground at all. The K-9 units at the scene experienced a failure that we see time and time again in these cases. These dogs are trained to find a scent in the most difficult conditions imaginable. Yet, at the exact point where Jim separated from his friends, the scent just stopped. The dogs paced in circles, whining in confusion, as if the trail had ascended directly into the sky. Now, we must travel back in time to 1958, to the shadows of the Rocky Mountain National Park. Bobby Bizup was only 10 years old, a young boy with thick glasses and a very limited field of vision. He was attending a summer camp, a place that should have been a sanctuary for growth and play. Bobby was walking a well-worn path from a chapel to his cabin. It was a walk of less than 100 yards, a distance a child could cover in less than a minute. Bobby never made it to that cabin, vanishing in the short span of time between two heartbeats. One moment he was there, and the next, the path was empty and the air felt strangely cold. The camp counselors searched frantically, but the boy had simply evaporated into the thin mountain air. As the search intensified, the sky darkened and a sudden, violent snowstorm descended upon the mountain. This is a recurring profile point in the missing 411 research that we cannot ignore. Severe weather often follows these disappearances, acting as a curtain that falls to hide the evidence. It makes the search nearly impossible and destroys any fleeting clues that might have remained. It took an entire year before any sign of Bobby Bizup was recovered from the vast wilderness. His remains were found in a location that shattered the composure of even the most veteran searchers. He was discovered 2,000 feet higher than the point where he had originally disappeared. He was perched on a high, rocky ridge that required professional climbing gear to access. How does a 10-year-old boy with severe vision impairment climb 2,000 vertical feet in a blizzard? There were no scuffs on his small shoes and no signs of the immense physical struggle such a climb would require. Even more bizarre was the state of his clothing, found neatly tucked away near his remains. His jacket was turned inside out, yet it showed no damage from the elements or predators. When we analyze these cases side by side, the common threads begin to weave a tapestry of terror. We are looking at people who are being moved across vast distances by forces we do not understand. They are being placed in high-altitude locations as if they were pawns on a giant invisible chessboard. The lack of trauma suggests they are being transported with a terrifying Clinical precision. I have spoken to search and rescue professionals who whisper about the things they see in the deep woods. They speak of the silence, a phenomenon where the forest goes completely mute before someone vanishes. No birds, no crickets. Not even the rustle of leaves in the wind can be heard. It is as if a bell jar has been lowered over the area, isolating the victim from our reality. This silence is often accompanied by a feeling of being watched by something that has no face and no form. It is a primal, instinctual dread that tells the human brain to run, but there is nowhere to hide. The dogs feel it too, which is why they cower and refuse to track the scent. They are sensing a presence that does not belong in our biological kingdom. Let us look at the clean feet anomaly, which is perhaps the most baffling part of the pristine body profile. We find victims miles from their last known position, often in swamps or briar patches, yet their skin is unmarked. If you walked 100 yards in the woods barefoot, your feet would be cut, bruised, and filthy. Yet these victims look as though they have been floating above the thorns and the mud. I am stating the facts as they are recorded, even when those facts seem to insult our common sense. The authorities will tell you these people died of exposure or natural causes to close the file. But exposure does not explain how a body ends up on top of a mountain it could never climb. Exposure does not explain why a fall from a cliff leaves no broken bones. There is a deliberate effort to ignore these anomalies because they point to a truth that is too hard to swallow. If we admit that something is taking people from our parks, we have to admit we are not the apex predators. We have to admit that there are regions of our own country where we are no longer in control. The pristine body is a message, a signature of a force that operates in the shadows. Now, we must consider the most disturbing possibility of all, one that takes us beyond the edge of science. What if the reason we cannot see the predator is because it exists just outside our visual spectrum? I am talking about invisible entities that haunt the high places and the deep valleys of the world. These are beings that move with a fluidity and silence that no animal can replicate. Imagine a predator that does not need to hunt with claws or teeth, but with a technology or power we cannot grasp. It approaches its target in the silence, perhaps using a field that numbs the senses and stops the heart. It lifts the victim, carrying them through the air or through a fold in space itself. This would explain the lack of scent on the ground and the lack of trauma on the body. These entities may be ancient, predating human history, and they consider the wilderness to be their private laboratory. They take a human subject, study them, and for reasons only they know, they return them. But they don't always put them back where they found them, leading to the geographic disconnect we see. They drop them into ravines or onto peaks like a scientist returning a specimen to a tank. This theory explains why the clothes are often found inside out or neatly folded nearby. An entity that does not wear clothes would not understand the logic of our garments or how to put them back on correctly. It is a clumsy attempt by a non-human intelligence to mimic the state in which it found us. The pristine condition of the skin suggests they were held in a controlled, sterile environment. The sudden storms that follow these disappearances may not be a coincidence of nature at all. They could be a side effect of a craft or a portal opening. disrupting the local atmosphere and triggering a deluge. It is a perfect cover, washing away tracks, diluting scent, and keeping searchers huddled in their tents. While the humans hide from the rain, the entities complete their work in the dark. I have interviewed hundreds of people who survived near-miss encounters in these missing 411 hotspots. They all describe a sudden, overwhelming sense of being chosen or targeted by something they couldn't see. Some describe seeing a shimmer in the air, like heat rising off a highway, moving between the trees. Others hear a voice that sounds like a loved one, calling them deeper into the brush. If you think this sounds like science fiction, I challenge you to read the autopsy reports yourself. Look at the photos of the locations where these bodies are recovered and tell me how they got there. Look into the eyes of the search and rescue pilots who have seen things they are ordered not to report. There is a hidden history of the American wilderness that is being written in the blood of the innocent. The National Park Service has no central database for missing persons, and they refuse to create one. Why is it that a federal agency with billions in funding cannot tell you how many people have vanished on their land? They don't want a database because then the patterns would become undeniable to the general public. They don't want you to see the clusters of pristine bodies appearing across the map. We see these clusters in Yosemite, in the Smokies, and in the vast bushlands of Australia. The geography changes, but the profile remains exactly the same, year after year, decade after decade. It is a global phenomenon, a harvest of humans occurring in the places we go to find peace. The peace of the woods is a mask for a predatory intelligence that never sleeps. Consider the case of a young hiker in the Pacific Northwest who was found on a ledge no human could reach without a rope. He was facing the sun, his eyes open, with a look of absolute serenity on his face. His internal organs had been turned to liquid, yet his skin was as smooth as a marble statue. The coroner could find no entry wound, no poison, and no explanation for the state of his remains. These are the impossible deaths that keep me awake at night, wondering who will be next. It could be a marathon runner, a seasoned hunter, or a toddler playing just feet away from their parents. No one is safe because we do not know the rules of the game being played against us. We are walking into a trap every time we step off the pavement and into the green. The silence is the warning. But by the time you hear the silence, it is already too late to run. The entity is already there, standing beside you, vibrating at a frequency that paralyzes your nervous system. You feel a coldness that penetrates your bones. And the last thing you see is the forest floor falling away. You are no longer a person. You are a data point in a mystery that has no end. I am often asked why I continue this research when the answers are so disturbing and the pushback is so great. I do it for the families who have been lied to by officials who told them their child simply got lost. I do it for the victims whose final moments were spent in the grip of something truly alien. They deserve the truth. No matter how much it shatters our comfortable view of the world, when you go out there, you need to be prepared for more than just a change in the weather. Carry a personal locator beacon, stay in groups, and never, ever let your children out of your direct line of sight. The wilderness is a beautiful lie, a gorgeous backdrop for a reality that is far more predatory. Respect the woods, but more importantly, fear the things that dwell within the silence of the trees. We are coming to the end of tonight's presentation, but the search for the truth is only beginning. Every time a new report comes across my desk, I look for that pristine body profile. And every time I find it, the chill in my spine grows a little bit colder. Something is out there, and it is not looking for a friendship or a peaceful coexistence. I want to thank you for listening and for having the courage to look at the evidence that others ignore. Please share this video, spread the word, and help us put pressure on the agencies that keep these secrets. The more people who know the profile, the harder it becomes for the truth to stay hidden. We are the only voice these victims have left in a world that wants to forget them. I am David Paulides, and this has been a deep dive into the missing 411 pristine body phenomena. Stay on the trail. Stay alert. And keep your eyes on the tree line at all times. The world is much stranger than we were ever taught, and the woods are never truly empty. Good night. Stay safe, and we will talk again very soon. The truth is out there, waiting in the silence.